Hello and welcome to the Heat Check Podcast, Miami Herald, Miami Heat Podcast. I'm David Wilson. I'm joined, as always, on the other line, live from Vegas. It's Anthony Chang, our Heat beat writer here at the Herald. Anthony, what's going on? I'm sorry, you were having headphones issues and I was way too loud for you. I think I stunned you.
You're okay. It's just Vegas, 5 days, loud noises, like not a great combination. Day 5 in Vegas. No one should be in Vegas for 5 days.
Oh my God. I mean, I just went through the same thing with the first, like when they played 2 games in Vegas for the Stanley Cup. And at first we thought they were going to maybe have 2 days off there. It was going to be like a 6-day, 5 nights in Vegas, I think is what it was going to be. Wound up being 4, which is too much alone. I love Vegas, but, it can be dangerous.
Yeah,
and exhausting.
It's just so different and it's exhausting. I think that's a good way to put it. Just exhausting. Yeah. And I've been on my best behavior, so it's not about that. It's just an exhausting city.
You have to walk through casino, like to get anywhere. You got to walk through massive
It's so hot.
People.
So
There's UFC there this weekend too, so I'm sure it's been insanely busy around town between that and Summer League. And
I'm staying at Park MGM too, which is connected to.
Oh, is that where they did the fight at? Oh yeah, it's right by T-Mobile. The fight was at T-Mobile. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was an interesting night.
Yeah. All right, not a whole lot to get to this week. Obviously, Summer League is in action. We'll get to some takeaways. You're heading out of Vegas shortly, but got to see a couple Heat games there. I'm sure you got to see some other stuff while you were out there. So maybe we'll bounce around just some other topics around Summer League. But we are now into, we're recording this on Tuesday, so this won't go up till Thursday. But so we are on, what are we on? Day
11.
Day 11 of the Damian. It started July 1st. Day 11 of the Damian Lillard saga. Does not necessarily feel any closer to resolution than it does now, but Joe Cronin spoke for a long time, gave kind of his insight the other day on where the Blazers stand. I guess we'll start. We should start there. Just anything from that press conference that made you think any differently about where this Damian Lillard saga might be headed?
Not really. I mean, there's so much posturing going on, right?
Yes.
Like, I don't know. I'm not saying Joe Cronin was lying, but I'm not saying they're also like, you can't say that everything he said. You have to take what he says with a grain of salt, basically. Like, he says it could take months and they're willing to wait months. I just can't see that.
But I still think it could take months. Could be the beginning of September, right? Like,
yeah, I don't think it's gonna get done quickly. I don't think it's gonna get done like in the next few days. But it just.
I hope not, or we're gonna have to re-record.
Yeah, that's a good point. My takeaway is not much has changed. The Trailblazers obviously want more than what the Heat are offering. The issue is there are no other offers, and the Blazers are kind of begging teams to offer something, so they have like options or some type of leverage. But the problem is, like, Damian Lillard has made it clear that he only wants to go to the Heat. His agent went on record last week, I think after we recorded, saying basically, yeah, he's been calling teams, telling them like, you shouldn't trade for my guy because he's not going to be happy. So yeah, there is no market for him, and it's an unfortunate situation for the Blazers, but that's the situation they're in. So on one end, it's like, you understand the Portland's point of view, right? They want to maximize the return, but it's hard to do that with the way Damian Lillard has kind of set everything up. On the other end, the Heat, and people are saying like they haven't offered their best offer yet for Damian. But who are they bidding against, right? Like, do you expect them to include all 3 first-round picks, all their young assets? Who are they bidding against? What's the competing offer? So it's just I think Cronin used his word, and it is true. It's complicated because Portland wants to maximize their return. They think they should get more. And Miami's like, well, that's fine, but so who are we competing against? Who do we need to outbid? So right now, I think it's kind of hit an impasse. I still think he's going to end up with the Heat because what other end game is there right now with with the way Damian kind of wants things to end up? But it might take a little bit.
Yeah, I still feel pretty much the same as we felt last week. That in some ways they're both playing chicken with each other, right? Like, because the Blazers are incentivized to get this done before the start of the year because you don't want Damian Lillard to come to training camp and Scoot looks great, and you want to just be able to like move on to that next era, right? And the Heat are obviously incentivized to get it done by the start of the regular season because they want to win a championship, and having Damian Lillard for a full season would help that a lot. So, I mean, both are kind of the Heat, like you said, they have an offer, I guess, on the table. I mean, there's never like an offer on the table, right, until an offer is done. But they don't want to offer the house. The Nuggets want them to, or the Blazers want them to. The Heat, right now, as we said last week, no team is like super incentivized to get this done right now, right? The Heat would like to wait this out and maybe get the Blazers to eventually be like, oh, all right, we'll do this trade for not everything. And the Blazers want to wait this out because they want the Heat to eventually go, fine, you can have Tyler Hero or whatever. Like, we just need to make sure we get this done. So, I don't know. Both teams have like a month where they can basically do that. Like, there's nothing other than summer league right now. Nothing going on in the basketball world. It's going to change anything.
The only thing I would say is, do you think it's risky that the Heat kind of operate this way? Because it doesn't seem like that right now.
So this, I guess, is the
so
other
strong,
thing.
But like, if he softens his stance and says, "Well, I just want to get out of here. Like, I'll go to Boston, or I'll go to Philly, or I'll go to Brooklyn," and then all of a sudden the Heat aren't the front runner. So are they taking a risk by letting time go on and maybe things get a little weird?
Yes, I think that is the risk on the Heat's part, right? That's the other piece of why the Blazers, as we said last week, they have no reason to get this trade done right now. Like, right. I know Heat fans like want this to get done ASAP. I know they're like kind of laughing at the Blazers because like they have no leverage in this situation, but their leverage is time. Their leverage is the fact that there's no reason for them to get this deal done in the next
4 years left on his contract. Yeah.
And again, like, even if your deadline is the start of training camp, like, that's when does training camp start? Beginning of
almost 3 months away.
Like, yeah,
beginning of
like
October. Yeah.
Beginning of October. So like nothing between now and the end of September is going to change anything. The Heat are going to want Damian Lillard, right? There's no one else out there for them to go get necessarily. I mean, they could make a couple moves on the fringes, just like picking up minimum free agents or whatever, but there's nothing's going to change the fact that the Heat want Lillard, and the Nuggets are stuck, or the Blazers are stuck right now. It's like, sometimes like if you're playing a puzzle, like you're doing a puzzle game or like a crossword puzzle or something, you put it down, you come back in 2 hours and you come up with a solution. Like, sometimes the best move is to just wait and walk away and think about it for a little bit, and maybe let some of the external factors that they have no control over change right now.
Yeah, I would say the only reason maybe Portland would want to get this done quickly is just to avoid this becoming a mess situation with arguably the best player in franchise history. But, that stuff happens, right? Like, they have to do what's best for them at the end of the day. But I would say that, and also maybe like the teams with cap space who could take in Tyler Hero and facilitate the type of deal that Portland wants. Maybe that cap space dries up, and then all of a sudden it's harder to put together a multi-team deal. But other than that, like, I would think, it's crazy to say because the Heat has kind of the leverage right now. I would say the urgency probably is more on the Heat side because you don't want the variables to change, or Damian Lillard to change his mind, or again soften his stance. So I understand why Portland is handling it the way they are, as unpopular as that statement might be in Miami. I get it. I thought Joe Cronin had a very interesting comment toward the end of his press conference yesterday. I'm going to read it real quick. So this is reading on this podcast, okay? This is what this segment's called. Dame is obviously a very important person and player to us. What the rest of his career looks like matters to us, and we care about that. At the same time, we have to do what's best for us, and we have to find the right deal and find the right makeup of the team that we're going to build forward with. So you hope that you can find the perfect situation where that lines up and he goes to a place that he wants to and you get the best return possible. It's complicated. Usually it doesn't work out just like that. So I just feel like that kind of summed it up pretty well. Yeah. Like, I think they would like to do right by Dame at this point, but the return just isn't what they're looking for right now.
Yeah, in an ideal world, they'd love for him to play for the Heat and get a return back that is good for them. Like, they don't care if the Heat are like they don't have nothing against the Heat right now. They're in the East, like, for the next 3 years. The Heat are in the East. Like, by the time I keep saying the Nuggets, I don't know why. By the time the Blazers are like a contender with Scoot, if and when that happens, like, Damian Lillard and Jimmy Butler are going to be like pretty close to non-factors, right? Like, the Blazers aren't going to be a championship threat for a long time. So they have nothing against the Heat. They just want the best offer they can get. And again, like it sucks for them that it seems like Dame is really like trying to suppress Dame and his agent are trying to suppress the market as much as possible. And if it is the Heat, like there's no reason not to try to extract everything they can out of that offer. You mentioned the idea like of the Heat, like should they have urgency because what if Dame softens his stance? I have to think that given how badly Damian Lillard appears to want to be a member of the Heat, and how savvy Pat Riley and the Heat front office is, I have to imagine that if this is like if Dame's stance is starting to soften, they're gonna kind of be aware of it and
that's a good point.
Be more.
He would let them know. He'd be like, "Let's get this done already," because I'm getting antsy, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
And he would immediately up their offer.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what Heat's offer is, like I think we could all assume what it is, right? Because
right. Well, like I said, there's never an offer
work.
until there's an offer, or until a deal is done. There's never an offer.
Well, what if I told you this is not to be aggregated. This is a hypothetical offer, and it could be the offer. I think it's been floated around there, and I've heard similar things early in the process. So I don't know how it's developed. What if I told you the Heat's offer was Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and 2 first-round picks, and that's it? Would Portland's stance be more understandable?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm them, I just want as many first-round picks as I can possibly get.
Like at least the Heat have to at least probably try to unlock that 3rd pick somehow. If I'm Portland, like at least try to give us that 3rd pick. And if I'm Portland, I would want one of the young guys. I would want either Jovic or Hawkins.
Yeah. Those guys, I'm counting them basically as first-round picks.
And
kind of pointed out, and I think a little bit of like a dishonest reading of the situation when he was like the Heat basically has 7 first-round picks to give. Not quite true, but those guys, especially Hawkins, who was just a first-round pick, and Jovic. I mean, the way he looked in summer league so far, plus the fact that he was a first-round pick last year, like he certainly seems like he's living up to his draft billing so far. That was first.
Too bad Cody Zeller is on the roster. He was a top 5 pick, right?
Yeah.
Kidding. Having fun with Barry. And from what I understand, Caleb Martin is not like an untouchable. I mean, Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler are the untouchables.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the Heat are really, really going to try to keep him out of the deal.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because this is a win-now move.
If I'm Portland too, I'd much rather have just in their situation. Obviously, Caleb Martin is better into more teams. Yeah. I think a more valuable asset, but 1 year left on that deal. Like it's the best deal in basketball right now, but he's gonna get paid next summer.
Yeah.
And
I mean that you would get his bird rights, but you're gonna have to pay him.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to pay him.
For Portland, I'd much rather have the team control of Jovic or Hawkins. Especially Jovic. Jovic is the one that makes sense. Is like I think I mean I know the Heat love him and he looks great, but for all parties it kind of makes sense because like what's Jovic gonna do for this team this year? Yeah. Like he'll play a little bit, but like I don't know. As we've said, he needs to be a ball dominant guy, it seems like, and get more opportunities. He's just not going to get in Miami.
If I'm Portland, the one guy I want is Jovic.
Yeah, I agree. That's Jovic plus the picks. That's what I want.
At 20 years old with that skill set, and you could tell he's improving. Like he's improved over the past year. His body is changing. He's still growing. He's 6'11", might get to 7 feet. He's the one guy I would definitely want. So I don't know. I don't know how the offer has kind of evolved over the last 10, 11 days.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's interesting because you have heard reports saying like, oh, the Heat are basically trying to lowball Portland because they know that nobody's offering.
Everyone is operating the right way right now.
Yeah.
The Heat are trying to use their leverage. The Blazers are trying to exercise theirs, and that's how negotiating works.
Who's going to blink first? Yeah. Who's going to blink first? Yeah.
And as we said, there's not a deadline here. We're like, if nothing happens, I know I predicted July 4th a couple of weeks ago. We've blown through that. Like, do you expect to even get done in July? Are we going to be talking about this every week for the next month? Like, that wouldn't be shocking.
No, that wouldn't be fun. But yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility. Like people I've talked to here in Vegas, just like different reporters and even some agents and stuff. A lot of them now are thinking that this could take a while, like maybe even up to September, like you're saying, just because, like you said, both sides are kind of playing chicken right now, and they're waiting to see which one is going to blink first, and there really is no reason to be like, we got to get this done right now. this week. I think in the beginning, the assumption was this would get done quickly because it seemed pretty simple, right? Like, oh, he wants to go to the Heat. We know what Heat's offers pretty much is, like what it's going to be, and just get it done. But you could, and rightfully so, Portland is trying to, again, maximize their return and see if things change over time and that maybe benefits them.
Mm-hmm. What do you make of the, like, Tyler Hero to the Nets or Spurs, I think was the other one that Shams reported, like, as part of a 3-team deal, basically to send, I guess the idea of that would just be to send as many first-round picks to Portland as possible. It's interesting. It doesn't seem like, because Hero's good, and I get why, but I also kind of get why Portland maybe doesn't value him super highly when their guys are Scoot and Simons and
Sharp.
What do you make of it? Do you think, I don't know, have you heard anything on that front? Obviously, the Heat are exploring all avenues, right? Like, they're smart. They're like the masters of the 3-team trade, so it's not surprising to hear that.
5-team,
6 team. What was the one that was like
17
players, 7 teams or something? Yeah.
That was all Andy Ellisberg special. So he has experience with this, and I'm sure they're trying different ways to kind of maximize their picks. Well, maybe not right now if the reports are true, they're trying to lowball Portland, but I'm sure they will try to, give Portland what they want to a certain extent through multiple, finding multiple teams who could cooperate with them in a multi-team deal. But yeah, I've heard that Portland does not want Tyler Hero at all. Right, and I think that's pretty much obvious.
I kind of get it. I mean, we're both Hero fans. I think he's. It's kind of been the national buzz lately. It's like, oh, is he actually undervalued? Because everyone's just kind of like looking at the contract. But
I kind of wrote that today in my mailbag. Like, I just think it's kind of unfair the way Hero's kind of been dragged lately through this whole process. Like,
it feels like it does feel like it's kind of flipped back the other way. Right now, people are like, wait a second, this guy was the 6th man of the year last year.
He's 23 years old. He's a year older than Jaime Jaquez. He's averaged over 20 points a game in the last 2 seasons. Yes, he's not a great defender. He's on a $130 million contract, but that contract is going to look pretty good in like a few years when the cap is expected to grow pretty. Have a pretty big increase. And he's improving. Like, we've seen improvement year over year for the last 2 years with him. He's not a negative asset. You could say maybe he's a neutral asset, but I would even say, Shams reported that teams are willing to offer 1 first-round pick for him.
Like you said, 100% buy that.
I think that's even low. I think, if that's all it takes for a team to get Tyler Hero, I feel like almost every team should be in on Tyler Hero. For 1 first-round pick.
Good teams. And I mean, I guess the cap space is an issue because that contract is pretty big. I kind of love the idea of Tyler in Brooklyn or in San Antonio, which have been the 2 names. I mean, him with Wembanyama would be really fun, I think, because Wembanyama, they kind of need, Portland kind of needs that, like, guard to go with Wembanyama, right? Like,
pick and roll.
Yeah, they got kind of nothing around him right now, and I don't know, to me, like, Wembanyama, I think, offensively, I know he wants to have the ball in his hand a lot, and he will, but, like, him basically doing, like, the Bam thing of, like, being the pick and pop, pick and roll kind of guy. Like, I know Tyler Hero's not a playmaker. It's not his reputation, but he's at least a ball handler and a guy who can run the offense a lot. And Brooklyn, him with Mikal Bridges is a guy who can cover up some of his deficiencies. Is a pretty fun little wing tandem, too.
Yeah, but Brooklyn has a bunch of wings that could help cover for Tyler's deficiencies. Cam Johnson, yeah. So I think
as the rim protector.
I think both those teams are good fits. I think Tyler Hero is a good player. I think if you can get a pick or 2 for Tyler Hero, that's not a negative asset. That's not even a neutral asset. That's a positive asset.
So if you get a first-round pick for anyone, like anyone you can trade for a first-round pick, that's like means he's
an asset. Yeah. So I kind of understand why Portland doesn't want Tyler Hero because they already have a bunch of guards. But at the same time, it's like Portland's not going to win a championship anytime soon, right? Like just collect the best players possible and have assets at that point. Like it's like when you draft somebody, you don't draft by position at a certain time. You draft the best player available. I kind of think Tyler Hero falls into that category of like, you have a bunch of guards, but just figure it out. Like at that point, maybe one of the other guards that has higher trade value becomes expendable, and you could trade them for something else. Like I don't know. I understand maybe why they wouldn't want Tyler Hero, but I don't understand why they're so like strong and like we won't take Tyler Hero.
I have to think like when push comes to shove, they would take him. But I get why they want to say like send him to San Antonio and have San Antonio send us a pick or whatever. Like I totally get that as their perspective right now. And honestly, that it makes a lot of sense to me. It'll be interesting to see if they can get a deal like that done. It feels like that's the most likely path now. Brooklyn, I'm a little more skeptical. They are an East team. Like, do you really want to help the Heat? But like again, San Antonio, the same way we talk about like Portland. Who cares if you're helping the Heat if it gets you better? San Antonio kind of, I think, makes a lot of sense.
The one thing I've learned through these last 11 days is thank God for the Heat that Damian Lillard is handling this way, that he's basically said the Heat and nobody else, because the Heat wouldn't have had a chance. Like, if it was like, remember we were like, oh, it might be Brooklyn, Philly, and Miami, and Miami has a competitive offer. They could probably get in there. They wouldn't. They like if Portland doesn't like the Heat's offer this much, then the Heat really probably wouldn't have had much of a chance to get Damian Lillard at that point if there were any other teams involved. So I think Damian Lillard knew what he was doing. He's trying to get to the Heat, and this is pretty much the only way you could get that. And we still don't know if it's actually going to happen. We think it's going to happen. But even him being this strong about demanding a trade to Miami hasn't been easy.
Okay, let's close out with some summer league talk. Some boots on the ground reporting from Anthony from Vegas. What's it been like out there? What have been the big takeaways? Obviously, we talked. I think the Sacramento games that happened last time we talked.
Yeah.
Since then, a couple of games in Vegas as well. What have been your biggest takeaways?
He had 27 turnovers yesterday against the Suns. Some rough basketball to watch in that one. But my biggest takeaway is the guys who are supposed to be playing.
Are we firing Karan for that? Is Karan getting the axe?
Definitely on a meeting with Spo. He's gonna have to answer for some things. The guys who are supposed to play well, the guys who are on the roster, are playing well.
Yeah.
Jovic is playing well. Hawkins, you haven't seen much of, which we can get into, but he had that shoulder injury in the second game, so he's only really played one full game, and he played well in that one. Orlando Robinson had 36 points in the Vegas opener, hitting and making threes now. Jamal Cain has had flashes, and he's had some solid games. I don't know if I'm missing anybody right now off the top of my head, but yeah, pretty much like the guys who have played well, who are supposed to play well, have done that. There really haven't been many undrafted guys who have popped. I would say the one undrafted guy that maybe has the best chance of sticking is Drew Peterson from USC, the big shooter. Started every game so far, which says something. He started pretty much with the other guys, like he started with Jovic and Drew Smith and Orlando Robinson. So he's been kind of the one undrafted guy who they've kind of shown trust in. And in Sacramento, they were kind of trying to get him to be more aggressive. The Heat always want guys to shoot as many threes as possible, especially guys like that who are known as three-point shooters. He didn't do that in Sacramento, but in Vegas, he's kind of made the adjustment to be more aggressive from three-point range, and it's translated into some really, really good performances. So that's pretty much it. The guys who are supposed to play well played well, and then Drew Peterson has kind of stood out among the pool of undrafted players on the team. Yeah,
Orlando Robinson. What do you make of that? It feels a little Yurt-ish from a couple years ago, where he went crazy. But we know Orlando Robinson. I mean, he's going to be the backup center on this team this year.
I mean, maybe it's between him and Thomas Bryant, right? Like he's going to have to compete.
Oh, right, I forgot Thomas Bryant. Yeah,
but Orlando Robinson will have a chance, and I mean, the development of the three, if it's real, and it looks, he has a nice shot. He made a solid amount of threes in college, especially in the final year. I think he's shooting over 50% from three in summer league. Small sample size, but still, I think he's hit a three in pretty much every game so far. If he can do that, you could play him next to Bam theoretically, right? So that gives them more of an option to play and get minutes, because if they need size and a guy to play next to Bam, Orlando might have the skill set to do that. So it's been encouraging. He's still not the most athletic guy defensively. He still is not perfect, but that he can shoot the ball. He has a good touch around the basket, and he's pretty much gonna do the job that's asked of him, in that backup center role. So the good thing is he seems to be getting better, and that's all you want from those type of guys.
Jovic, we talked about him a little bit in the first segment. Just, I don't know, it feels like this is exactly what you were kind of hoping you were going to see from him. I mean, he was not good in
the last game,
but for the most part. But no, they scored 74 points in that game.
27 turnovers. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I mean, you're seeing all the flashes, and I mean, huge progress from year one to year two, which is probably the biggest Like that's what you really probably care most about, especially from a guy who didn't really play a whole lot.
You're seeing like the work he put into his body, the 20 pounds he added, like it's paying off. Like I think he's averaging like before that last game. The last game was not a good one for him. But through the first 3 summer league games, I think he was averaging 8 free throw attempts a game, which is very encouraging. Just getting the rebound and pushing the ball, which is really unique for a guy his size. He's just super intriguing. Like he could shoot the ball. He's a good passer. He could play as a point forward. He now is getting to the rim with pretty much ease. I know it's summer league, but still, like it's been impressive the way he can get to the rim and draw fouls or finish. Just a really intriguing prospect. And I would say, if you redraft last year, like he's probably a lottery pick. Probably a lottery pick.
That might be right. I'm gonna pull up that draft.
If you redraft, like the way he's again, he didn't do much last year because he was
definitely
hurt for most
based
of the
on
season.
Ceiling, right? Like
the
top of this draft is actually pretty good. No,
pretty good.
At it. We don't know Chet. Palo 1, Chet 2.
I would still draft Chet ahead of him.
Yeah,
for sure.
Jabari Smith, Keegan Murray, Jaden Ivey, Ben Mathurin, Shaden Sharp.
Back end of the lottery.
Yeah, Dyson Daniels. And this is where, you get Sohan. I like Sohan. Johnny Davis falls off there.
Yeah. So like
got Jalen Williams in there, Jalen Duren. Yeah, he's in that like back end of the lottery basically.
Yeah. And he was drafted, I think, at 27. So
he would go at least 10 spots higher, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Christian Brown. This draft's actually pretty good. Walker Kessler. Anyway, he's good. He's improved his stuff.
And that's why I would, like, if I'm Portland, that's the one guy I'd want. At 20 years old with that skill set, just kind of fits modern day NBA. He's been, to me, the most encouraging part of Summer League this year.
Yeah.
By far.
As you mentioned, Jaquez has not played since that first game. I don't know. Feels like the Heat, maybe. I mean, like, obviously, if he was healthy, he'd be playing, I guess. Yeah. But feel like they probably feel like they saw not enough, but they saw, especially because he's an older guy. They have a lot of tape on him from his UCLA days. Like, I don't know, he looked like a man among boys in that kind of, and that's sort of what you expect from like a 22-year-old in summer league, where he's not one of the oldest guys there necessarily, but he's on the older half of the spectrum there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think in an ideal world, he would have played a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
Basically, more than 1.5 games, but it's a real injury. Like, I know, like when he started sitting out, everyone's like, "Oh my God, they're going to trade him." Like, this is just to protect him. Like, no, there's a real injury. They had an MRI on the shoulder, came back clean. He says, like, basically, he thinks the muscles is kind of tensed up in his, I think it's his trap shoulder area to keep his shoulder from dislocating. And it's just been like a lot of discomfort there. I think with time it'll get better, but I don't know if this would be the case. He still hopes to play in Vegas, but I have to imagine he's not going to play again in summer league, just because why, right?
Yeah. How many games do they even have left? They play Friday. Is that their next game?
They have 3 left, at least 3. I mean, they're not going to the championship because they already lost one, so they have 3 left. Yeah. They play Friday, Saturday, and then Thursday, Monday? Friday, and then either Saturday or Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. They have a lot of days off right now, right? Multiple days off in a row. So.
Yeah, they have 2 days off and then play Thursday for back-to-back Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, so
again, he said he wanted to play, but teams are going to be cautious, and especially with an MRI injury that required an MRI. Again, I don't see it.
Anything else you got to see in summer league? Were you at a Wembanyama game or you missed the show there? I can't remember.
I missed it. I was in the building, but I wasn't watching the game. I was working.
Gotcha.
But it was packed. Like just to get into the arena was an issue. Like just to approach the arena in a car was an issue. Like I had to get off before I even got there.
And it's like a huge, like, I mean, I'm not sure how many people listening have been to summer league, but it's like a huge parking lot to get to, like, at that building, and not usually very crowded, not usually very big crowds. For the most part, and
to the top, to the top full. And that
I wonder
first
how
game,
it compares to Zion. I don't remember Zion's debut where there
was an earthquake
that night, right? Is that the same night? And also, I believe Kawhi got traded that night, or got signed that night too. So
like at 1 a.m. or something like that.
Yeah, very eventful day in summer. Like, I wonder how it compares. Like, I just don't remember how that Zion game compared. I wasn't locked in.
I would imagine that it was pretty similar.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I know some people were tweeting that that scene was like unlike anything they've ever seen in summer league before. And maybe that's true. Maybe it was a little more, but Zion, I mean, the hype around the Zion debut
it was different because people had seen Zion, and Wembanyama is such a mystery. But The Zion hype is huge.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was pretty close to Victor. But I mean, other than that, no, it's just been. I mean, it stinks that so many of the top guys have gotten hurt.
Yeah.
Right. Victor got shut down after 2 games. Scoot's been hurt. There's probably another top. There was somebody else who got hurt too, right? Was there another top player who? Oh, it was one of the Thompson twins.
Oh yeah.
One of the Thompson twins got hurt as well.
Yeah, in that same game, right?
Same game.
It was the same game.
So that's unfortunate. You don't want to see injuries in summer league or anytime really, but especially summer league where it's just like, doesn't count. It's just kind of to get reps in.
Yeah.
But it's been I mean, for the Heat, I would say it's been a productive summer league because again, the guys you want to kind of have seen take a leap or to make improvements, they've pretty much all done that. And now they're just kind of waiting for that 1 or 2 undrafted guys to kind of pop like they usually do. There's always 1 or 2 that they kind of stick for training camp at least and maybe compete for a 2-way. And I mean, there's been, again, Drew Peterson is one, and I think the other one is still up for grabs.
Yeah.
We talked about Chase Adage last week.
Yeah.
Since then, I don't even know if he's made a 3 after that first game, but he's.
Bouye's had a lot of assists, but a ton of turnovers
played well.
too.
Bouye's played well. He already's on a 2-way. He's played well.
Yeah.
There's another one I forgot to mention him that's played well. That the Heat kind of wanted to see some improvement from. But yeah, other than that, it's kind of there haven't been too many others that have kind of made you watch them.
Yeah, and that way maybe not the worst thing that Jaquez might not.
Yeah,
because it's just more reps for other guys as they're trying to figure out who might stick. No run-ins with Brittany while you've been out there.
Thankfully, no, I have not had any run-ins with Brittany, not yet. That was a crazy story to start Vegas.
Crazy story. I was just I can't believe good for Wembanyama for being so famous that Britney Spears knows who he is.
Running after him, doing the thing that she doesn't like. The people like running after them, somebody and taking a picture, wanting a picture with them, like that Britney's pretty much dealt with her whole life. Headline writers must have been in heaven to have Victor Wembanyama and Britney Spears in one headline.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Wembanyama, I knew he was famous, but I don't think I quite realized how big a phenomenon this was going to be. Where like Britney Spears, who I would guess does not know who Paulo Banchero is, right? Is all about Wembanyama. The French aspect, I mean, he's huge too, right? Even if you don't know who he is, That's see him and you're like,
he's
that guy's got to be famous.
Yeah. It's somebody he's so big.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it is pretty cool and
she didn't do that with Jaime Jaquez though.
What? No, she did not. But Jaime Jaquez is more. You don't. He's not 7. What is he? 7? Not 7'5". What is Victor? 7'5"?
I think they list him at 7'3".
7'3". Okay.
But he's like 7'4", 7'5".
Yeah. Jaime is not that tall, so a little different.
Yeah. All right. Anything else? Anything else from Vegas?
No, that's it. I mean, I guess I want to real quick just kind of go over the Heat's roster at the moment, which might totally just change based on a Damian Lillard trade. 2 open spots left in the 50-man roster.
Right.
1 open 2-way contract.
Yeah, which then no moves in the last week. We're waiting for them.
Yeah.
I mean, they still need a point guard at some point here, right? Basically,
right.
So.
And Jamal Cain is still a restricted free agent, which I could see them at some point probably getting the Orlando Robinson contract of partially guaranteed to fill one of those spots, especially if a Damian Lillard trade opens up 2 more.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's the thing, right?
Yeah. I think they're waiting to see how long will they wait? That's the question, right? Before, because they're kind of in a holding pattern right now. How long will they wait for the Damian Lillard thing to be resolved before kind of moving forward and filling out the roster? We'll see. But I think at the moment they're trying to see basically what's going to transpire for the next week or so for maybe possibly making a move or 2 to kind of continue to fill the roster.
Mm-hmm. Point guard, any point guards that have interested you in the
Goran
talk? Still Goran.
Kendrick Nunn, I guess, is the one that.
Yeah.
I know he's not a true point guard, but he really don't use true point guards much.
Yeah, honestly, a point guard who can shoot threes is more important. It's like the Mario Chalmers thing, right? Who cared?
Yeah.
He was good because he could shoot and bring the ball up every once in a while.
He could play off of the Heat's best guys, pretty much. And Kendrick is he's a scorer, right? He can score points. So, and the Heat have familiarity with him. He's not past his, Goran's best days are behind him.
Yeah.
Obviously. Kendrick is still a good player, a functioning player. So he's one that probably stands out among the group available. And then Deion Waiters, obviously.
Doing tryouts.
He had to work out in Vegas.
Did
I
you
don't know if the Heat
go?
were there. I did not go. But I don't know if the Heat were there, but hey.
When's the last
He
time
can
he
score.
played? He didn't play at all last year, I don't think. Did he play the year before? He was on the Heat, on the Lakers, obviously, in the
I
bubble.
think that's the last time he was on
Is
the
that the
team.
last time he was in
I
the
think
league?
so.
Yeah.
I think that's the last time he was in the league.
Yeah, it was.
He won a ring. He won a ring.
Go out on top.
Yeah, he's an NBA champion, so.
Yeah.
Good for Dion. Good for Philly cheese.
All right. I think we can close things out there. Thanks, as always, for listening. You can follow Anthony on Twitter at Anthony_Chang for all your Damian Lillard updates. You can follow me on Twitter at DBWilson2. We'll be back. We'll definitely come back next week, no matter what happens to close out Summer League. And then we'll see. Obviously, we're all at the whims of Damian Lillard these days in terms of our off-season recording schedule. But we'll be back next week for sure. So until then, we'll talk to you guys next week.